Hello and welcome to Jersey Made. I'm your host, Luke Porco, and this is the show that gives you a one-on-one interview with a notable sports personality that calls New Jersey home. They'll give you an inside look at their upbringing, how they got into the sports world, and what makes them Jersey Made. You may know today's guest from his work as the pre- and post-game studio host on the Guest Network, where you can see him on New York Yankees games and Brooklyn Nets games. And he also has a podcast, New York Post, called the Pinstripe Pod. And today's guest is New Jersey's own Chris Shearn. Chris,
Thank you, Luke, so much. I appreciate you having me on, buddy.
Oh, likewise. Yeah. Can't wait to hear some about you. And just let's get things started. Tell me about your childhood growing up in South River, New Jersey. What lessons did you learn, or were there any fun stories that shaped who you are today?
Yeah, I mean, it was a very small town. It still is a very small town, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. And I mean that 1,000%. And it was really cool because growing up, I know there's a lot of high schools across the country that have big time athletes that came from their programs, and we weren't any different. We had Joe Theismann, we had Drew Pearson, and Joe rarely came back. He did though, but not as much as Drew Pearson did. And it was kind of cool because my father played baseball with Drew. And so when Drew came back, he would bring autographed pictures from his Cowboys days. And it was just so cool to be a little kid. And you saw that, hey, Drew was from South River too, and he's doing huge things. Now, never in my life did I ever think I'd be on a professional football field, but it gave all the kids, because he came back, he gave back all the time. He would come to our Little League baseball games and just hang out, a superhuman being. And it was just cool that my father played baseball with him back in the day. So, yeah, I mean, and everybody knew everybody. That's a lot of small towns in New Jersey. And if you watch the pre and post game shows that I do, or if you listen to my podcast, or maybe even listen to the calls of the New York Liberty when I do play-by-play, Marina Mabry, who's from Manasquan and who is with the Dallas Wings now, playing with Enrique Agumbawale, if she hits a shot, I'll say Jersey. So, I mean, once you could take the kid out of Jersey. I mean, I'm up in Connecticut now, but you can never take the Jersey out of the kid.
Yeah, no, and I'm sure that seems to be the case with a lot. You see that with a lot of athletes and a lot of people in general. They're very, proud to be from New Jersey. And another thing I asked about that, like when you do connect, obviously with the Yankee players and Brooklyn Nets players, there have been a few that have come from New Jersey, like in the past, like Todd Frazier, like Mike Ford, and especially in the Nets too. Like you got Kyrie and even Kenneth Faried a few years back. Like, did you ever connect with them or any players from New Jersey in general? Were able to like bond about your roots?
The only one I really approached like that, because he seemed approachable about it, was Todd Frazier.
Yeah,
and you could imagine, when I said Jersey, he just, the smile was from ear to ear, and we talked for a couple of minutes. But yeah, I mean, it's that common bond. Like, people get it. People know, like, when you're from New Jersey, it's just, and look, I don't count the Jersey Shore for anything. I'm sorry if you're a fan of it or whatever, but I mean, if that's what people think the state is about, they're entirely wrong. And a lot of people will use the term, I've come across it a lot in my life. Oh, that's the armpit. Oh, really? You don't get I guess you travel on the turnpike. You don't get to the country much in New Jersey. New Jersey doesn't have country. Oh, okay. Well, you need to get in the car and travel a little bit more, because yes, it does. New Jersey is beautiful. You could, obviously we have the snow. You could ski in the winter. You go to the beach in the summer, and it's awesome. I love it. And these Connecticut people who go to the beach and think the Long Island Sound is the ocean. No, you need to have some waves produced to be going down the beach or down the shore, as we say.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that. I'm from Connecticut as well too. So,
so you know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about. But yeah, bringing it back to when you mentioned your father playing baseball, Drew Pearson. And did you play any sports growing up? Like, did you play baseball or football or anything else? And did that kind of lead you to what you're doing now?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting story, and I'll give you the short version because it would probably take the rest of the podcast to get it all out. But my entire life, I've been a jock, quote unquote. But I'm like a jock nerd because you know I was always trying to do my best in school while being an athlete. But I played football, basketball, and baseball. I played Pop Warner because I was 5'2". I weighed 120 pounds all the way until my freshman year of high school. And I played football my freshman year at South River. And after getting thrown around like a rag doll that entire first year, I was like, maybe football is not the best thing for me. But I continued playing basketball. I continued playing baseball. When football went out the window, I had to do something in the fall. So I started running cross country. So I tried to keep that all year round sport thing going. So it was basketball. I was so into basketball as a kid. It felt like the Lakers and Celtics were on every Sunday. And me and my friend, Donnie Smucko, we would go down to Leonard Dean Park, which was right down the street from us. Snow, rain, whatever. If it snowed, we brought snow shovels to the park and we walked, kids. What a concept. We walked down to the park with snow shovels. There were no phones back then. This is why Gen X is going to be able to survive a lot. If the what really hits the fan, because we didn't have cell phones. We weren't sitting in our chairs scrolling through Facebook, scrolling through Instagram, doing TikToks. There was none of that. You had to actually get up and do some physical activity. Of course, there was Atari, and there was Nintendo, and there was Sega Genesis. But that stuff got played out. You wanted to be active. So Donnie and I would go to the park. We would shovel the snow. We would practice, and from 4th grade through 8th grade, Donnie and I played grammar school and middle school basketball. And when we got to high school, again, I was 5'2", $120. Donnie was like 6'1" at the time and started varsity that year. And I played freshman and I played JV. My junior year, I finally made varsity. I didn't make it through the entire season. Again, this is the short version. I got kicked back down to JV for reasons that I will leave out. And they went on to win the state championship. And I was the only one who didn't get a jacket. And I was really depressed about that because I worked so hard. I even was one of the penny players when they were in the state tournament, and I would get banged up and bruised and beaten because I just wanted to show the coach, I wanted to participate and I wanted to be there because I knew Donnie, like guys like Donnie needed me there. They needed bodies, and this guy's been my friend my entire life. I wanted to make sure they had what they needed to get to where they wanted to go. So after my junior year, the coach who demoted me came up to me and said, if you don't play summer ball, you're going to see limited minutes in your senior season on the basketball team. And I said, Coach, I'm a baseball player. You take basketball and you know what. So baseball is my first love. So I played baseball that summer. And then the next basketball season, we had a local cable TV station, South River TV 35, and they did all the football games and all the basketball games. And the guy who volunteered and ran the network came up to me and said, hey, no one knows this team better than you. Do you want to be our color analyst? So that's when it all kind of started, because I knew the team, like he said, better than anybody. And I started to get the itch. And then all through college, I watched SportsCenter ad nauseum. I mean, I would watch the repeats to the point where my girlfriend at the time would want to throw me out of my dorm room. You're watching the same thing. Yes, but I could have missed something. So Dan Patrick, Keith Olbermann, Carl Ravitch, Craig Kilborn, Steve Levy, all these guys. I mean, they were like another college class for me when I was going to Rowan University in Glassboro, New Jersey, which used to be Glassboro State. So I started to get the itch my last year of high school. And thank you to Art Lendensky, who ran Cable TV 35, because he's the one that really kind of nudged me in the direction. And my uncle Tony Rosano, helped me at Glassboro. And once I got my foot in the door, it's that age-old story. Just get my foot in the door. I'll do the rest. I don't need any help once I get my foot in the door. When I was at Rowan, I joined the radio station. I was in the Radio TV Film Association. I was the president of it my last semester at Rowan. And the best class I ever had, Luke, was broadcast journalism with Ed Kasuba. He worked for KYW News Radio down in Philadelphia. And if anyone got me ready for the real world, I mean, all of my professors did, but I have to single Ed out because he was, look, this is not conjecture. This right here is my broadcast journalism. I call it my Bible. This is my, it's Ed's style guide for writing broadcasts. And I kept it. I still have the damn syllabus, Luke. So, I mean, that's how much his class has shaped me, molded me, I guess. And I guess that's the long answer. But playing sports and then being involved in TV when I was 17 years old, I mean, that really kicked me right in the pants and said, hey, this is what I want to do. And even under my senior picture in my high school yearbook, aspirations, you know, everybody has the aspirations, sportscaster. And I did it.
There you go.
Yeah, not a lot of people could say that. And I'm blessed to have been able to do it. And I'm blessed doubly, triply, whatever, exponentially to be a Yankee fan my entire life. And then to work for the Yes Network. It's unparalleled. You can't, I mean, not enough pinching could end the dream. That's the best way.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Like, you know, growing up, I can only imagine. I mean, you actually did it, but like growing up, being a Yankee fan, you know, as a kid, and then just, you know, actually being on the team, the network that the team's going to be on, like that's got to be, I can't even fathom.
Hey, look, when you grow up a fan and your boss comes to you in 2008, remember 2008 was the last year of the old stadium. I had never been in the locker room before in the old stadium. I went there all the time with Mike Francesa and Chris Russo, but we were put in a room and that's where we stayed. You know, I've been in the dugout. I was never in the locker room, but I was asked to fill in for Kim Jones. And when I went into that locker room, it was like I don't know, it was kind of like my soul left my body. I was looking at myself reporting because the greatness that had been in that locker room, the stories that I heard from my uncles who go all the way back to the DiMaggio days. I mean, it's just, it was an unbelievable experience. I still get that feeling whenever my feet touch the new field as well. Look, I can't say it enough. It's a blessing to be where I'm at right now and to be working for the organization that I'm working. That's
you just love to hear that. And it's just so like inspiring for, I'm sure, the next generation too, like kids from Jersey or wherever, like trying to be like that play sports or trying to be like the next big broadcaster. Like that's, you know, living proof that you can do it. And that leads me to my next question, actually. If you go back in time, like to your childhood and tell little Chris Shearn from South River, like, you know, hey man, like this is what, you know, what would you pretty much like tell him about what he's gonna experience? And like, what's some advice you would give him ahead of time?
I would say, love your hair as long as you have it, because it's not going to last too long. When you start brushing it in college and it's coming out in clumps, you're going to know what I'm talking about. That's just a joke. I mean, my wife looks at my mullet pictures from back in the day. She's like, you look better. You look better bald. So I would tell him that. Don't worry about losing your hair because you're going to meet a beautiful woman. And she's going to give you two beautiful daughters, and you're going to have a great life up in Connecticut. You're going to still be able to visit your parents in New Jersey, and you're going to be fine. But I would also tell him, you know, to no matter what, stay the course. Look, a lot of things these days. The best way I could put it, let me go back to a basketball story. Donnie and I lost the championship our first year in grammar school. It hit us. And that was back in the day. I'm not trying to make this about this, you know, then and now. That was back in the day when if you came in second, your trophy wasn't gigantic and it wasn't the same size as the championship trophy. The championship trophies were huge. And let's face it, if you Gronk spike those things, they're going to break into a million pieces anyway. But when you're 8, 9 years old, you're not thinking about that. I want the big one. So When we lost, we were upset. Not ashamed to admit we cried. But that's when shoveling the snow, down at the park, working harder, we promised each other we're never going to lose again. We're never going to have this feeling again. And we won in 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. And then Donnie went on to win 2 state championships in high school. So, and that's, if there's one regret about not being able to participate and be with them, it's that. Because I wanted to experience that with my friend who I had all those experiences with as a kid growing up. You know, that would have been the culmination of all the hard work we put in earlier on in life. But it is what it is. But that's the best way I could put it. Kids, I would go back to my younger self and I would say, look, you're going to face a lot of adversity in your life, a lot. But to quote the great Rocky Balboa, life is going to keep knocking you down. It's not about how many times you get knocked down. It's how many times you get back up. And that's what I want to tell kids. Like, you're going to go through adversity. You're going to go through bad times, but it's up to you. No one else is going to do it. You have to put the work in. You have to make yourself better. And you could do, there are so many things you could do now as opposed to back then. I was sending out VHS tapes. Just Google it, kids. You know what I mean. Or ask your parents. They know what it means. But I was sending out VHS tapes for the first 9 years of me trying to get on the air. No, for 9 years. And, you know, I didn't give up, but I kind of shelved it. And I said, well, maybe I have to go the producer route. Maybe I have to stay behind the scenes. And I met 2 guys at MSNBC where I used to work who did the IMUS in the Morning show, and they needed a sports anchor. And they loved me. They had me do a demo tape. And then that was in 1997. I was actually on the air at MSNBC for a day. And that just sparked everything. That was like taking a gallon of gasoline and throwing it on a pilot light because it was still there. It never went away. And then Pat Roddy and Terry Irving, those are the 2 guys, they were the ones dumping the gas on the pilot light. So I got to thank them as well. I'd be remiss if I didn't. And September 11th, I was at MSNBC. I was there when everything happened. I was a tape producer in charge. And then for 6 months after that, I was working overnights, doing our overnight shows. And when one of my former bosses from there called me, and as was that Yes, Jeff Green, he said, hey, do you want to come to the Yes Network? I didn't even know what the job was. It could have been a janitor. I just said, yes, get me out of here. And it was an associate producer job with the Mike and the Mad Dog show. So I would tell, and then I started doing the sports sprint, which I came up with myself because Mike and Chris would sometimes be late getting on the air. There'd be a still of their faces on your TV screens for a minute to 2 minutes. And it was just music replaying in the background. So I said, I don't have to be on camera. Just let me do like a real quick update, you know, all the highlights from last night. My boss said, go ahead, send me a tape. Let me see what it looks like. I did it, gave me the green light. And 2004 is when it started. And here we are 18 years later, and I'm still doing it. So my younger self would be kicked in the pants and told, no matter how many rejections you get, keep going forward. It's going to happen. You just have to put everything aside and keep working towards it. And that's what I tell, if I were to see kids now, and I would tell them the same thing. And I would also offer my services. If they want to reach out to me, if they want to see how this started, how they could get started. And look, you got cameras, you got videos, you could get teleprompters downloaded to your phone. There are so many opportunities for you. YouTube channels, anything you want to do. TikTok famous. I mean, I can't do it. I don't know what the secret is, but I don't want that anyway. I want something sustainable. But you know, you get the point. I just want people to know that it is possible. And if they need it, and if they see this and they're watching this, I'll help.
Yeah, that's great to hear, especially, you know, because there's so many people out there like trying to be like break into this industry, and that's a huge resource to have somebody like Chris Shearn on your side. And last question before we get started. You mentioned a lot of great people who helped get you to the way there, but who would you say is like, the one person that like if inspired you, like that's from New Jersey? Obviously you named a lot of people, but who's like that one like inspiration that like kind of keeps you going every day? Like that like, gets you.
Well, it's nobody famous. I'll tell you that.
No, it doesn't have to be someone famous.
It's my late father.
Sorry.
I'm sorry if I get a little choked up here,
go
but
ahead. I'm sorry for your loss.
His picture's right there. He played semi-pro baseball, had a tryout with the Yankees, and he was my sounding board. And, I could include my mother in this too, because she helps keep me going now. But my mom is that typical Italian New Jersey mother who, no matter how much I stunk at the beginning of my career, would always tell me I was the best thing since sliced bread. I would say, that's nice, put that on, because I knew I'd get the truth with my father. The reason I'm as good as I am today at what I do, the reason I'm the man I am today, is because of my father. He told me when I was terrible, and right before he passed, he told me how good I was. And Luke, I believed it, because I knew what he was saying at the beginning, and he was telling me what to work on and what I needed to do. And he never let me make an excuse. He always told me it was on me. And one of my friends that I played baseball with, and my dad was my coach early on in life. When I got older, he got out of it because he didn't want to be that guy. He didn't want to be the father who was seen to be playing his son over somebody. He just said, Little League is as far as I'll go. But one of the guys that was on that team came to my dad's wake very late, and he summed up my dad beautifully. He was your harshest critic and your biggest fan. And I don't know if I could, I don't know if I could say it any better. That's what he was. He would, if I had a bad show, I got in the car and the first thing I did was call home, because I knew he was up, because he was watching me. And I would just beat myself down until he would say, "Could I talk now?" Yeah. He said, "Yeah. While you were bad here, but you did some good things here. You can't focus on all the negative. You have to look at some of the positive things you did too." And that's how I knew he was the one that was always on my side. Not having him in my life is devastating. I mean, it's a part of life, and I completely understand that. And 2 months after I lost him, I lost my cousin Bobby, who was only 58. And it was right before COVID hit. My dad died in November 19. Bobby died in January of 2020, so 2 months after that. And those were the two people that when I was on set, I always brought my phone. And when I was on set, those are the two people that were always texting me, "Hey, great point here. Hey, dude, you're doing great. You and Frank Isola are on point." And now I don't have that anymore. It's tough to try to get through. So I know this is a roundabout answer to your question, but that's the guy. That's the guy that worked 3 jobs to make sure that we were all taken care of. That's the guy that set the examples to be where I am sitting right here talking to Luke for this podcast.
That was a beautiful answer, and I'm glad you were able to explain that, because it's important whether you do have a parent like that with that kind of relationship with them. Either way, like they're always making sacrifices one way or another. And it's so important to have that relationship. And I'm glad you're able to explain that further. And yeah, that transition from that, but this first end of that first half, and now we're gonna switch it up, and try to make it a little lighter and play.
Sorry, it got a little
No,
deep.
not your fault. I'm just well, yeah. So this is the second half of the interview. We're gonna play a little game called Jersey's Best, where I'm gonna read some open-ended questions, and Chris is gonna answer them with his opinion on what he likes about Jersey. And first question is, the best part of New Jersey is
Home.
blank.
Best part is South River.
Nice. Yeah. And next question, best pizza in New Jersey.
Ooh.
This might be a controversial take, but
Yeah, I could. There's so many things you can get in trouble with, but I'm gonna go. Look, I'm gonna go with my guys who haven't been there my entire life, but they got there. I think right after I moved to Connecticut, they moved into East Brunswick from Brooklyn, and it's called Mancini's, and they make some great pizza. I have to go with Mancini's. I mean, if I'm down on the boardwalk, if I'm down in Point Pleasant, if I'm out at Jenkinson's having a couple of cocktails, a couple of adult beverages, Joey Tomatoes also works on the boardwalk. But yeah, I'd have to go with my guys at Mancini's.
nice. And you mentioned it earlier. You're a beach guy for sure. And what's the best beach in Jersey, or your favorite beach, at least?
Growing up, I went to two, Manasquan and Belmar. Manasquan, it was rough because you had to run over a bunch of mussels to get into the water and be in soft sand. Belmar, there wasn't that much of a problem with the mussels, but that's what I remember. It's so weird what your brain does when you think back and it's going through the filing cabinet, you're going through things like that. But yeah, I can remember vividly, like running over mussels, cutting the crap out of my feet to get to the soft sand in the ocean. But yeah, Manasquan and Belmar. They might not be the best beaches, but they were the beaches that I grew up
in. Nice. Yeah. It's always important. You always do, like you mentioned, you do remember those like little things about things when you grew up, and it's like it sticks with you your whole life. So if you could pick one celebrity that's from New Jersey and spend the day with them, who would it be?
Wow. There's so many.
I know.
Could it be dead or alive?
Yeah, it could be dead or alive, whoever you want.
Frank Sinatra.
Frank Sinatra, good choice.
Oh yeah, 1,000%. But he has to bring Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. with him.
All right, we can make that happen. And this kind of leads you might give the same answer, and that's okay. But if you could see one New Jersey musical artist in concert, who would it be?
I'd have to say Frank. I mean, I don't know. I didn't know when I was a kid. Like, I can't. It's not like I could drive to Madison Square Garden to see the guy when I was 7 or 8
completely
years
hypothetical.
Old. But yeah, I'd say Frank. I mean, that would be oh my God, be ridiculous.
Yeah, no, for sure. And who's your favorite, or at least you think is the best athlete to come out of New Jersey?
The best athlete to come out of New Jersey. Wow, I'm gonna be biased. Can I be biased?
Of course.
Drew Pearson. He's an NFL Hall of Famer. It was way too late for him to get into the Hall of Fame. He was the only all-decade player from the 70s not inducted into the Hall of Fame. And when he wasn't on that announcement, when they had that video rolling, I felt that with him because he was so deserving. How could you be on the all-decade team and the only one not in the Hall of Fame? And the one thing great about Drew, and I'll tell you a good story, he was in an elevator with Frank Isola, and Frank told me this story, and I'm sure he won't mind me repeating this, but he was in the elevator and he just looked at Drew and he said, that was interference. He goes, no, it wasn't. The catch against the Vikings in the playoffs, of course. But I mean, not only is he a great athlete, Drew Pearson is a tremendous human being. And I'm so thrilled that he was inducted. He still, now look, when I was a kid, I was a Cowboy fan. I was, because of Drew and because of his connection to the town, to my father. When Drew got into the bad accident and he lost his brother and he couldn't play anymore, I wanted to live in my house. I had to switch to the Giants. My dad was a huge Giant fan, and it just happened to be, and I know a lot of people are going to groan or roll their eyes when they hear this, but it just happened to be 1986 when they won the Super Bowl.
Fair enough.
So,
good timing.
When I was 13 years old, I became a Giant fan, and I've been able to celebrate every Super Bowl as a fan. So yeah, so there you go. So Drew Pearson, I'm sticking with that because he's my guy, and yeah, it's Drew. Joe Theismann's a close second, but it's Drew first.
Good choices. And finally, finish the sentence. When you're in New Jersey, you have to blank. And this could mean like, you go somewhere, you could act a certain way. Like, it's open for interpretation.
All right. There's a lot of ways I can go here. But when you're in New Jersey, and if you think New Jersey is an armpit, get off the damn turnpike, get on to the parkway, and don't say what exit, please don't say what exit. Go down the parkway and take yourself to Cape May. Take yourself to Long Beach Island. Just drive the strip in Long Beach Island. Go down to Cape May, go to the lighthouse, go down to Colts Neck, and then reassess your armpit quotes, because there are so many layers. Like Shrek said once, there are a lot of layers to his onion. New Jersey isn't just the top layer. New Jersey, if you cut into an onion, you see how many layers there are. That's New Jersey. And if you are in New Jersey in July, you want to make your way to Von Tunes. It's VONTHUNS. It is a farm market in South Brunswick, New Jersey. My father was on his way home from work all the time, and he would stop there and he would get the best Jersey tomatoes on the planet. So do yourselves a favor. In July, when they're in season, my father used to eat those like apples. So if you love tomatoes and you love Jersey tomatoes, that's where you need to go. So all of that. And also go to Jenkinson's if you're of age. And if the nerds are there, go see the nerds. It's a changing experience, life-changing experience.
Well, you heard it there. He's Chris Shearn. He's Jersey made. And you have it all right there. And thank you to Chris for coming on today. Thank you to all you watching and listening, and we'll see you next time.